Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Harry Brailsford, SMB Nation. This is winter quarter of our online MSP Tech Talk, online more important than ever. It's our Pocket MBA theme in the winter quarter. This is the third of 6 lectures. First 2 were on Finder. Finder is get the business. We now move over to 2 lectures on Minder about manage the business. And today we're going to have a talk about best business practices. But before we do that, let's do some introductions. Again, Harry Brailsford, founder and CEO of SMB Nation, proudly in our 20th year. So let's just say we've seen a thing or two over the years, and we're all seeing new things each and every day now. If you have a chance to take a second to quickly use the chat feature over in the control panel and maybe type in where you're located. I always like to do a quick shout out. I'm currently in Austin, Texas. Jennifer Hallmark over in I call it the radio control room, but she's in Central Washington State, and we're all safe and doing we're doing what we do. So we have Rhode Island, we have Hollywood, Florida. This is cool. This is cool that we have people from all over. It says rainy Rhode Island, Michael. My goodness, a little bit cloudy here in Austin. I believe Seattle has some fairly good weather. Let's get started. And part of that is, let me back up half a second, tell you what the Pocket MBA is. And we have Jonathan coming in from the Chicago Western suburbs. Shout out to Chicago. So the Pocket MBA system, you are helping me, and I appreciate it. We are developing the Pocket MBA system, and that will be released commercially, and we will charge for that later in 2020. So this is your opportunity to not only be a beta tester, but receive snippets of the curriculum complimentary. Your feedback is always welcome. With that said, Minder. So the business of business, Minder, manage the business, manage the clients. And we can really look at it 2 ways. One is work in the business, which I certainly do each and every day. I know each of you do who are on the call on this webinar. And that's where we spend most of our time, certainly most of our career. However, I do want you to be thinking about working on the business. That's a common theme at conferences and workshops and blogs in the MSP space. But you need to spend more time here. The book, The E-Myth, is what helped me transform the way that I work. Dana Epp of Vancouver, BC, provided me a complimentary copy many years ago. I read it with interest. Dana Epp is well known in our community for Scorpion software that was early 2-factor authentication, acquired by Kaseya, and then now he's off doing other cool new startups. The business of business is also about consistency. And I have had this talk more in recent times than I realized that, in fact, I had lunch with the CEO and founder of Spiceworks, a well-known IT pro community. Take a look at Spiceworks when you get a chance. And we talked about the importance of base hits versus home runs, consistency. Get up each day, turn the key, do it all over again, be consistent. And that would, again, be in terms of primarily working in the business, but do carve out time, maybe each Friday, to work on the business. Now, we have a handout up on, and that's part of the value of the Pocket MBA system. If you go to your control panel, go to handouts, we have a handout for today. And then we're also going to email you a second handout and put it up on the system that you can get when we meet next. And I'll tell you why that is. GoToWebinar is having, it's overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed with everybody working from home. So yesterday we couldn't even get on a couple meetings. Today we can. We will get you that second handout, but the first handout are resources about best business practices, some resources for you. Moving on. Finance. Finance is looking forward. Accounting is looking backwards. In finance, and I'm going to walk you through some financial exercises, and that's the handout that we will be emailing you and getting to you shortly. But we're talking with that forward-looking view, a contemporary topic would be the cost of funds. It's a darn good time to borrow if you have the credit rating and the capacity. Certainly, I know you have good character. So really, with the Fed dropping rates because of the stock market volatility, for overnight lending and liquidity, the rates darn near down to zero, and you see that trickle through rates in general. Now that's a different rate than you and I can get, but it does have, if you will, something of a multiplier effect. And so it is a darn good time to see if you're in a position to go open up a line of credit and maybe finance your operations, but hopefully finance growth. You can take a second to help me. I'd like these to be more interactive, but if you could tell me up on chat what you're using for your accounting software, and I'm assuming QuickBooks is certainly one of them. Yeah, I'm seeing QuickBooks, Sage. Okay, very cool. Now, final topic there would be about outsourcing your accounting function. So we do that. We have done that for probably 10 years at SMB Nation. There was a time where we had an in-house bookkeeper, had a lot going on, and then our business model changed, as has yours over the last decade. So we outsource our bookkeeping to a bookkeeper. I believe we pay a couple $100 a month. It's money well spent, and I'm happy to do it. And I would encourage that. A lot of us don't want to be in the business of doing the accounting. It's not as fun as you would think, needless to say. By the way, I see you're using the questions feature for your feedback. That's fine. I was also seeing some stuff up on chat. Thank you very much. So with that said, let's continue to move on. Finance. I want to spend time talking here today about in the finance area. So we're going to go to a spreadsheet that I created. And this is it. And we're going to talk about zero-based budgeting, which is what I prefer. A lot of people default to extrapolation, but zero-based budgeting is labor intensive, it's time intensive, but you take the actual cost and budget that out. You have to typically go look this stuff up. So let's go ahead and do it. These are some real cost for SMB Nation. These are just some sample expenses. So I can tell you this, that Comcast cable and internet, because I had moved our facility at one point, I got a moving special that expired at the end of last year. You know how the cable companies are, they kind of hook you with a 12-month commitment. And and Michael, thank you, sir. There's no chat pane on the interface. Okay, folks, be sure to use the questions capability for feedback when I ask. In fact, when I ask questions, you can use the questions. Thank you, Michael. So I just happen to know that Comcast has gone to 237. We modified our AT&T program and got that down to 199. The MailChimp, doggone it, you know, we're a publisher, that stays the same. Dynamic CRM, I actually renegotiated with the hoster and got that down to 60 for a seat instead of 2 seats. We found that we're fine with 1 license to Dynamics 365 at this juncture, and we can all log on to it. And then finally, the OneDrive, the capacity up there, $2 a month. That is zero-based budgeting. And again, it's labor intensive. Imagine having a chart of accounts that's several rows deep. Now, extrapolation is what a lot of us do. I don't like it, but basically what you would be saying, for example, we're going to increase expenses by 5% this year for budgeting purposes, and then we're just going to carry that 5% increase all the way through And that's what extrapolation would look like. And again, not as accurate, certainly, but it does get our MBA hat on, our pocket MBA hat on. And then finally, as a gift to you, we have a report that we call the mother of all cash flow statements. Again, you're going to receive this handout. Jenny's going to email it out to you, and then we will also put it up on the handout section for our next visit. So here, what we like to do is take our clients. I made this up, client 1 through 5. And look at the current receivables, what we can expect the client to pay, and it adds up to just over $18,000. And then as we go out to the right, you would of course want to update the weeks and the client names, but we can now start to project our cash flow using the mother of all cash flow statements. So folks, that is our view of finance. Let's return to our conversation. Want to talk HR, and again, not typically the most fun topic, a little bit like accounting, maybe not what gets us excited, but a couple of things stand out with HR, and I have some real strong feelings here. That's why we're talking about it. So first of all, remote workers. Now, obviously, that conversation is trending in the social platforms with the coronavirus and people working from home, but good news is we've done this for quite a while at SMB Nation. We learned that from the last recession, and that's one of the learnings about recessions is you will learn a thing or three as the US possibly dips into a recession because of the economic disturbance going on. So remote workers, it's a different management process. You will need a platform like Zoom or GoToMeeting or increasingly Microsoft Teams. And then you also have to manage differently. It takes certainly a different kind of person to be a remote worker. I like to, I'll give you an example. I'm coming to you via GoToWebinar and using a Blue Yeti mic. So a podcasting mic keeps me hands-free. Jenny and I will just often hop on GoToMeeting as if we're sitting in the same room working side by side and collaborate and work that way. Again, it's a different type of management style. Contractors. Jenny and I are the belief that we would like to not have employees, and we increasingly see it in tech companies, small companies, perhaps your own, but the use of contractors, it does a lot for you, certainly gives you a lot of flexibility, and it also allows you to minimize how you treat them in terms of payroll taxes. So I just threw up a sample, have to pay the bi-monthly payroll bill for the employees that at SMB Nation that draw a salary, W-2 employees, we call it. That's a whole nother conversation, probably back on the accounting screen about as an owner, do you take primarily your compensation as salary, or do you take it in the form of dividends and draws? So payroll taxes, and again, they're higher than you think, as you very well know on this call. Virtual assistant. So in the handout that you can download now about some resources in the MINDER category, have an interview with Josh Weiss out of LA Creative Tech. So he's an MSP, he's one of our analysts, and he has gone over the last year to using a virtual assistant. I believe it's even offshored, but it's helped him stay organized, helped him stay efficient. And again, going back to one of our early slides, it's actually freed him up to work on his business, not all the time in his business. And what that looks like is he now has time to develop a new vertical. And the vertical is in Southern California, the cannabis vertical, where he's already serving clients ranging from PR firms that specialize in that vertical to processors and growers. Virtual assistant, that would definitely be a pocket MBA takeaway. There's a resource in the handout for you there. And then also, Josh Weiss and I have a conversation. You'll see the link in the handout for outsourcing the help desk. And if you wouldn't mind, use the questions feature to talk to me, but are you using some outsourced help desk capabilities such as Continuum, and I believe, man, it's the one owned by Great American Leasing. But if you could let me know, use the question feature over there in your control panel if you're using a Continuum. I will tell you this, that here again, strategically, it allows you to focus on the work that matters and maybe, well, certainly less on the work that doesn't matter. If you join us late, it's the Pocket MBA system. It's MSP Tech Talk Winter Quarter. This is the MINDER lecture on what I feel are best business practices. Michael replied on the outsourcing the help desk. Michael, thank you. He says, no, my clients tell me they want to talk to me. Fair enough, Michael. And Argelis, here we go. I incorporated and leased an office down in the Dominican Republic to hire my own help desk and app developers. I am from there, so it is easier since I know the territory, and it's only a 2-hour flight away. That would be true from Southern Florida, forgive me, and it's a very nice place to visit. So thank you for that feedback. Management. So I want you to go back to our first lecture, if you have the opportunity, go back in your mind at least, where we talked about strategy versus culture in the very first Pocket MBA lecture. And a couple things on management I want to highlight. Number one, get a mentor. This is my friend Scott Bofield in Bellingham, Washington. So stick with me on this story. And hey, shout out to Continuum and from Chimay, thank you. So Scott in Bellingham. Scott was for many years at a large pharmaceutical company doing pharmaceutical sales, so taking donuts to doctors at hospitals. He took advantage of an early retirement package that gave him, I believe, over 1 year of salary, walked out the door with a handsome check, and he started a business, one of these loyalty cards, a local business loyalty card, so Main Street in Bellingham, Washington. Now, what's important is Scott only knows what he knows. Smart guy, by the way, master's in molecular biology and a successful salesman, but he had never started a business and or run a business. He'd always been an employee. And so he went to SCORE, and that's a small business administration program. It's in the handout, a link, more information on SCORE. So he went to SCORE and worked with a retired executive to understand how to start, own, and operate a small business so he could focus more on the product development. And I've also I've attended other lectures. The chair lady of one of the large banks in the US, believe that was Wells Fargo, and she talked about the secret to her success was having mentors along the way. All right, join a peer group. We're going to spend a little bit of time here. So just to level set, a peer group, you can certainly read the screen, but typically once a month you get together with like-minded business owners in your community, and that's what I call a general peer group, like Vistage. And what occurs is, you're going to have lunch and be in a room and close the doors and be here again with a dozen executives. So someone who owns the print shop, someone who owns the car dealership, you own a technology company. And you can talk about the art of management and running a business. And I would highly recommend that. There's plenty of them out there. My question to you is, are you in an MSP related peer group, such as Robin's Mastermind, the Taylor Business Group, or HTG? If you could use the questions, the questions area over on the control panel, let me know. We have Argelis says no, he is not in a peer group. We have one reply. Always interested if you have invested in yourself in a peer group. These are not free, by the way, and nor should they be, because you want to have skin in the game and make sure that you're, if you're paying, you're playing. I'll put it that way. We have Michael saying no, but I have a monthly coffee with a group of fellow geeks. So an informal peer group. Bill Powers is saying no, he's not in an MSP related peer group. I'd encourage you to check it out, and there's a lot of them. You could probably just Google. Michael says I belong to BNI, a networking group that would have some elements of a peer group. I don't know, Michael, I don't know how deep they would go into like HR litigation and HR matters and hiring and firing, but the main thing is that you're in a group and you're out there trying to better yourself, and this would clearly be working on your business. Product and services. Thank you, Michael. They have speakers on different topics. Chimmy says you're in Robin Robbins. Congratulations. Okay, product and services. So this is an interesting discussion. I am going to ask you these questions, so be thinking about it. But when I say a blended portfolio, here's what I mean. I want to give you the context. Years ago, I'm going to say 10 some odd years ago, when Autotask was still an independent company run by founder Bob Goggart, they acquired VAR Street. And VAR Street was sort of a virtual storefront. So imagine that you could literally sell products to customers. So the customer could come to your virtual storefront, elect to buy an HP printer, elect to buy ink. And there was a lecture at the Autotask Live event down in Florida, really good lecture, really good keynote about portfolio management and how to mitigate risk, right? We're kind of extracting from the world of finance at this point, but having a blended portfolio of products and services not only mitigates risk, but the work that Autotask and VAR Street showed is it also proportionally increases your return on investment, your profitability. So you weren't all just services, you weren't all just products, it was a blended portfolio. So if you could use the questions feature to tell me, what products do you sell? Are you a quote unquote reseller? If I could get a couple of responses, it'll help me understand the context. Then I'm going to ask the next question. I'll take a sip of water while you go ahead and type that in. Thank you very much. Still waiting on a couple of responses, and the response may be that you don't sell products. So that's okay too. It's again, it's a different business model. There's no question about it. Here we go. We're getting some responses. We have Argelus saying, firewalls, AV backup, hardware and cloud. Michael, I used to sell through Disty, but it wasn't for me. Thank you, Michael. Bill Powers, we resell cloud services. Actually, the next question. Thank you, Bill. And occasional hardware. James is saying services only. Thank you very much. Now, I'm gonna ask the second question. What services do you provide? If you wouldn't mind, give me some examples. So, cybersecurity, remote management and monitoring, training. Do we have any training services out there? That's another way to diversify your practice. And we'll just wait for those replies to just roll right in. Michael's saying 0365 and anything that PAX 8 lets me sell. Hey, Michael, shout out to PAX 8. I see the Wingman 2020 conference is in Denver in early June. That's the communication I have. I hope all the nonsense going on in the world is past us at that point. So I will see you at Wingman 2020 in Denver in early June. We have Bill Powers with RMM training and documentation. Love training. Love training. I write about it in the book that you're going to receive after lecture number 6. You're going to get my SMB consulting best practices for free. We have Argelus saying managed IT on site and remote app development. I like that. I have some research in the handout. There's some conversations about being an ISV as well as an MSP. So Argelus looks like you are. And I'm going to move on. So how do you define MSP? Now, this is more rhetorical. You're welcome to put up a comment or two under questions. How do you define MSP? But what I'm really interested in is what percentage of revenue is recurring revenue for you? That's the real question, because that's where a lot of people get stuck in defining what an MSP is. So if you could give me some percentages on revenue. Let's see, while you're doing that, just looking over a couple of things. Bill Powers is coming in saying about 30 to 40% of his revenue is recurring. Argelus is saying 85% is monthly recurring revenue. Yes, sir. Michael is saying, I think under 10%, I'm finding it hard to grow. The transition is the issue, Michael. Hopefully this Pocket MBA series is helping you think anew, and certainly talking the monthly coffee with your fellow geeks would be a pattern, a pathway to that. Jimmy is at 70%. Thank you. Typically, I'll answer the question now. How do you define MSP? Typically, our standard is if over 50% of your revenue is contractual monthly recurring revenue, you are an MSP. That's the standard I hold people to. I have not really seen an MSP that's 100% recurring revenue. Some people say they are, but then they lower their voice a little bit and they say, well, I still have, that one, senior citizen center that I support where it's still hourly. And then also don't forget project work. So I want to thank you for this nugget on the Pocket MBA series. Today was part 1 of the MINDER series. As I've said in prior lectures, what we're trying to do is develop a system that moves a little faster than our traditional 90-minute lectures and is based on handouts. So please, please, please go over to the handout portion of your dashboard and download the best business practices spreadsheet with some resources that I think are contemporary. Jenny is going to email you the spreadsheet that had the finance tabs, so extrapolation, zero-based budgeting, and then the mother of all cash flow statements. We will see you back here Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific as we jump into a conversation on standard operating procedures. Have a great day. Thank you for supporting SMB Nation. Bye-bye.